16 minutes to midday on BBC Radio WM, and it's time to talk to somebody brilliant from the West Midlands. That's what we do. And my next guest has an incredible story. His name is Colin Alladice. He's a gas engineer from Handsworth, and during lockdown he used his own cash to open an Airbnb, so he made some money then to build his own recording studio. He's named it after his late dad, who was a DJ for 40 years in Brum and had always dreamed of having his own studio. I caught up with Colin to find out a bit more.
My dad came from Jamaica in 55 as a carpenter and worked on site. He worked at Villa and most of the city centre projects. So following his lead, I was always sort of his shadow. So everything he did, I followed and watched. And he DJ'd at a club in Handsworth on Surrey Road, which was called Thatcher's, Rialto and Santa Rosa. So it was like 35 plus years this club was going. And when he came, he started DJing. He was sort of one of the first, well, the first DJ, because he brought his records. And he played music to entertain the community, because a lot of Jamaicans came over here with no nightlife. They came with the day job, but no nightlife.
Yeah.
So
it was creating that.
Yeah, he was creating it. He came with some records. He collected vinyl all his life, and weekly, every week, every Sunday, he played on a Sunday. So the community spirit, where it came from, you'd have your normal week at school, then you sort of do your shopping with your mother at the weekend, and Saturday there'd be the odd jobs, and then come Sunday, the Sunday dinner would be prepared, everything's sorted, and then you just see your parents slowly drift off on a Sunday afternoon. You didn't really know where they were going until you got older and found out they were going to Thatcher's. So that was their community hub.
Yeah.
You know, play the closest to getting back home and seeing people that they knew and sort of just dancing to the music that they loved.
And making sure you got that bit of culture, I suppose.
Yes.
That you have been missing.
Yeah.
If you come over and been used to something. And I think that's what's amazing, because then it blends in, of course, and then other people there, because it's
Yes.
very mixed community as well,
yes, yeah.
start enjoying things that they've not had before.
Well, my dad was a carpenter, as I said, so he worked on site, and you know, a few times I went with him on site to different sort of things. So I tended to know all his mates, because I was a little short person going around with him with all his mates. And for me, it just opened up a completely different world, because as a kid, you've got your normal school life and that. But when you're sort of going on site and meeting hard-working men and they're giving you a different outlook on life, it's sort of stuck with me. Yeah. Hence why I'm a tradesman today.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're going to come on to the bit of sort of musical heritage that your dad's given you, really, yes, and what you're doing now in a second. But you've been a gas engineer of, for 35 years?
Yeah, 35 years. There was a history behind my life before then, and then I got into the trade through the Prince's Trust. I started...
We'll talk... You basically, what you're referring to is you went to prison.
Yes.
And so you turned your life around and you became a gas engineer. But I suppose we should probably start at the beginning.
Yes.
Tell us why you went to prison.
I came out of school 16, 17, and you know, the community was what it was, and not blaming the community, not blaming anybody at all. You know, what you do is your own response. There's not a lot I can speak about the actual crime, because I'm in the process of writing a book, and there's a Miss Lister and a documentary that we're trying to do.
Tell us broadly.
Yes, I went to prison for 8 years for armed robbery in 1986. Served my time and came out. When I came out, being an ex-convict, there was not a lot of job opportunities. Doors were shutting, and somebody advised me to go to the Prince's Trust with my skills. So I went to the Prince's Trust and went through the process of learning how to start a business. They gave me a bursary of £3,000, which I bought tools with. And I started off as a landscape gardener, and then I slowly got pulled into the house. It was, can you do a bit of decorating? And then started fitting bathrooms, fitting kitchens. And it just snowballed, because what I'm trying to get at, my father taught me the art of how to solve a problem. I'm not going to teach you the skill. I'll just tell you how to solve a problem. So
it's the kind of teach a man to fish, and he'll be able to do that forever,
to feed his family.
Exactly, yes. Rather than giving the fish that'll only last for one meal. That kind of attitude.
That kind of attitude. So I'm a bit of a monkey see, monkey do. If I see you do it, I can do it. It doesn't sort of faze me.
Can I take you just back to... And I know you're writing a book about it, but I'm interested. Was it being in prison for so long, for 8 years, that made you determined to change your life? Because actually you do hear a lot of people who are repeat offenders, a lot of people who don't feel like they get that opportunity, and they're not, it's not as simple as, great, I've learnt this, I've been redeemed, and now I'm going to do this. What do you think it was for you that allowed you
Me
to do
personally,
that?
I'll always say, don't let people fool you that the system changes anybody and it's life itself. You've got to change yourself. You can't hang it up. And for me, it was, I knew where I was. I still knew what I wanted out of life. Just because I'm in this situation doesn't mean that I'm going to give up. So while I was in prison, everyone else is sewing mailbags, I'm sorry, but I just took certificate after certificate after certificate after certificate, because what else are you going to do? And so that's my mentality. So it wasn't that it changed me, it's that I've always been, what's next? What's next? We don't just sit on what you've achieved and call it a day. So I just sort of moved on.
Do you think you would have achieved as much, and we'll talk about the other stuff you're doing as well, without having that as your life-changing experience?
I think that speeded me up, to be honest. Okay. So I'd always wanted to achieve, but I think that made me more focused, rather than put off till tomorrow, just get on with it, sort of today sort of thing.
And so, of course, and again, you say you've learned loads of skills, you went into business, you were able to become a gas engineer. And do you like your job?
I love my job. I love my job.
Is it the chatting to everybody and anybody? I can tell you're a really a good communicator.
I meet the best people in the world. Absolutely best people in the world. Imagine meeting people in their own home, when they're comfortable, they feel at ease, and you get to know them over the years. So you're a family friend. So, generally, I've got families everywhere that I can pop and see, and they all treat me lovely. And if they've got a problem, they'll come to me, because that's me. I just solve problems.
Well, I can tell it also. It's pretty crucial. Gas problems or things to do with how you live, are really crucial. So people are always relieved, aren't they? I suppose to see you.
If I can give you an idea of where I slot or what I sort of love in the job I do, I had a lot of old age pensioners as customers, heating and stuff like that. You look after them, but if you could imagine in the days of the two tall taps at your sink, if one of them goes, you need a pair. So I love a car boot, so I buy everything from car boots. So I've got a mass of these taps that I've bought from car boot, just because I like that. So when an old ear tap goes down and they need a new pair is £60. I bought two from the car boot for £1. I changed them for £10. They're happy, I'm happy, and everybody loves me. That's the essence of how I keep people going.
I don't know, and actually, I think a lot of people fail to sort of get that bit of it, where you're easing that path,
easing their pain,
but it's sorting you out as well.
Yeah.
No, it's brilliant to hear you talk about that. Love the fact that you enjoy your job so much. But let's talk about what you did in COVID, in the pandemic, because I can tell you've got a million ideas for your life, because you're that kind of person. But you decided to do something pretty interesting.
Yeah. This was COVID, and as a key worker, gas engineer, I was allowed to keep working. People got to keep warm and stuff like that. But at the time, the Chancellor was very nice to us and says, if you carry on working as a key, you can also have furlough, which, yes, I accepted it. But after a while, he thought, well, it's free money. Let me do something with it so it means something. I haven't just spent it, sort of thing. But at the time I was buying a house and I was this was all for the Commonwealth Games, funnily enough.
Right.
I bought this house to renovate and rent out at the Commonwealth. But in the process of renovating the house, I lost a very good friend, Big Bird I'm going to call him, because nobody doesn't know him by any other name, and my father passed as well. And the three of us was planning this mad thing that if we can get somewhere, we can build a studio. Everyone's looking crazy. I like that.
A music studio.
A music studio. I thought, I like that idea.
Oh, Colin, Alladice from Handsworth. More on exactly how he put that recording studio together after this.
Girls, have I got a treat for you?
Oh, yeah. EastEnders is moving.
This summer, they're dropping a whole week of EastEnders every Monday straight onto BBC iPlayer.
Oh, brilliant. I do love a good binge watch.
Oh, who knew? We do have one thing in common then, Karen.
Cheeky mare.
EastEnders. Watch all this week's episodes every Monday on BBC iPlayer.
Yeah, we've been talking about TV viewing habits, haven't we? A survey out today really reveals reveals the gap between generations in terms of how much live telly people watch. And, you know, even EastEnders, even the appointment of you soaps, you can binge watch now. All throughout the summer, they're dropping 5 episodes at once. So, yeah, there you go. It's new, even for EastEnders, etc. They're starting to embrace the new way of watching on demand. You're listening to Catstan Session. It's 6 minutes to midday. And at this part of the show, we get a slice of someone's life in the West Midlands. And today it's Colin Alladice. He's a gas engineer from Handsworth. He had a bit of a misspent youth. He spent time in prison, which he says he then used to get qualifications and to turn his life around to become a much better person. During lockdown, he decided to actually start a recording studio in memory of his dad, who was a DJ in Handsworth for 40 years. Here's more from Colin.
So I bought the house, renovated the house, and I built a recording studio in the garden. But my dad passed, and going through it, then I found myself, and I found the destination in life where I was going, if you know what I mean. It wasn't all about the money then, so you sort of pushed that to one side. And then I've just jumped hands in. I'm all in for my dad's legacy. He's put so much into the community. I'm going to finish what he wanted to do.
And you've called it after him, right?
Father Dice Studios. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
That's amazing. And I think I just had this it popped in my head as you were talking, and I don't know if you've ever been to the States, to Detroit. It was one of my favourite places I've ever been, because I went to the Motown house. Where they where Barry Gordy transformed that garage at the back into a recording studio, and it is honestly, I found it so emotional.
Yeah.
And I just have this vision of your house with your studio and the stuff that you're going to do there.
I am in the same bracket as that. I've got pins and needles. I'm excited till I can't be more excited in my life, because I just know in my brain what's visual I'm going to do. But I couldn't have put this on paper as a business plan and asked anybody to fund me, because it just wouldn't have stuck up.
But you're just sort of making it work. I mean, tell us what you want to do as well, because you want to do stuff to help people with it.
So the plan is I'm aiming for the best of the best. There's no point in harbouring about it. So I've picked one of the best musical engineers that we've got in the community, Sovereign Tugs. That's a whole different bracket, but I'm bringing him as a musical sound engineer. So what we're going to do, there's a bracket between 16 and 18 where kids don't really exist. You know, they can't get any money, they can't really work. So, and as a gas engineer, I've gone into homes and seen the depression that these young kids have. I thought, well, we'll teach them musical engineering and sound editing and video editing. So the whole house, although it's an Airbnb, it will be a film set. We will be doing documentaries, and I'd like to have a TV channel over the weekend to feed the community. All these sort of things take time, so you don't run before you can walk. But the essence of it is, you know, we're going to teach the kids. We're going to grab them and we're going to teach them, because at the end of the day, I don't want to dictate to people or say what anybody else is doing right or wrong, but I've spent 30 years going inside and outside of people's homes and know what kids do. I know mile for mile we have the most musical engineers and talent, but the wise isn't really there. And I'm not knocking what studios are there and what they're doing.
You want to fill that gap.
Yeah, I want to fill the gap. That if it's a studio that's in a church, you have to be a Christian or one religion, if you no disrespect meant. Yeah. And if it's a community hub or a youth centre, you have to be part of that. So all of these are taking data, names, addresses, what they're doing before they get there. That shies a lot of them off. Do you know? They want to find out if they've got it before they jump in.
So you're going to be a bit more open, a bit more free.
A bit more.
But
open.
you need a bit of help with kit, right?
Kit, yes. This is where it gets very interesting, and I hope you can help me. I'm just starting to kit it out. I've, soundproof the room, and I'm buying the keyboards and stuff. And I was hoping at the time that somebody would be able to help me purchase them, but I've slightly purchased most of them now. And as you can see gathering from me, I'm looking at project number 2. So the next project, I'm going to build studio number 2. But my dream is to kit the studio out with every single musical item that is on this planet. I'm going to have in this studio, and then, again, I'm a tradesman. If you've got the tools, you can do the project, but you've got to have the tools first.
That is Colin Alladice, and I was chatting to him afterwards as well about what he wants. He wants anyone who can sort of knows about studio equipment or recording equipment that can help even with purchasing it basically as well. But he wants to create this amazing studio in Handsworth for young people to use as well. It was brilliant to hear from Colin. 08081 000995.